Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to talk about some of my own predictions for Season 3 of Star Trek Picard, which some people who have seen it claim it's a trillion times better than Season 1 and 2, and I'm really hoping that's the case, but I'm kind of skeptical because Season 1 and 2 were so terrible, and also judging by the trailers, everything looks like the same style, and all kinds of little details that don't really add up. We see Picard is wearing glasses when he reads, which doesn't really make sense in the Star Trek universe, in which we never saw anyone wearing glasses, at least in the 24th century. I know Kirk wore them in one of the movies, but that was in the 23rd century, and they even kind of tried to explain it by saying he has an allergy to the normal treatment or something. So, by the way, I didn't like that either, but for the rest of the Star Trek franchise, we never saw humans wearing glasses, which makes sense because medical technology is so advanced, you will be able to cure short-sightedness and all of that easily. The glasses that Kirk wore in the movies, which we can also explain as kind of sentimental value because McCoy gave them to him as a gift, and so maybe he just wears it because he likes it. So, by the way, I didn't like that either, and I'm also tired of Trek constantly trying to imitate The Wrath of Khan, which was a good movie, but that doesn't mean that every Star Trek movie should be aiming to be like that. And so I didn't like the parts in the trailer in which it looks like another remake of that same idea of some villain who seems to be out to get Picard as a vengeance for something he did. And another thing I noticed in the trailers is that Geordi Laforge is apparently angry at Picard for something. And that also kind of reminds me of Season 1, in which every single character Picard meets is angry at him for something he supposedly did, even when it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical because those are things which were not even his fault, and yet people are angry at him for either doing something or not doing something or not doing enough of something. And so no matter where he goes, everyone hates him. I even made a compilation of that stuff from Season 1, which was kind of almost comical that every single person he meets is angry at him, even when the reasons for the anger are self-contradicting. Like that Romulan senator was angry at the Federation for helping them, then he was angry that they stopped helping them. Like, make up your mind, what exactly are you angry about? And they all are angry at Picard, and he keeps apologizing to everyone. And that became almost laughable. So the part when Geordi hates him now is also reminded me of Season 1 in a bad way. But you know, I thought about it some more, and I think maybe Geordi has a justifiable reason for being angry at Picard, and so that immediately becomes better than Season 1, because my problem with Season 1 was not the fact that people dislike or are angry at him, but because their motives, their reasons didn't make sense, as I mentioned. For example, with the Romulan senator who doesn't exactly know why he hates Picard, he just knows he does hate him and tries to come up with reasons to hate him. Or Raffi who hates him for some reason because he left Starfleet and so he left her alone in Starfleet and that's why she's angry. Or because he has a rich house while she doesn't, which also doesn't make sense in the Star Trek universe, that he's rich and she's not, she lives in a desert for some reason. And so all kinds of things like that, that's what annoyed me in Season 1, that it was written not cleverly, and that's what annoyed me, not the fact that people have conflicts and all of that. That alone by itself can be fine if it's written in a logical way that makes sense. And so I think this time it can work if they have a logical reason for why Geordi is angry. And I think the reason might be because Picard basically killed Data in the end of Season 1, because remember they found Data in some simulation, his consciousness was still alive because they recovered some positronic brain cells of him or something, and they managed to restore his consciousness, and he was living inside the simulation. And then he told Picard that he wants to die because he wants to be more human or something, and then Picard went out of it and just unplugged him. And so maybe Geordi heard about all of that, and that's why he's so angry, and that would be totally understandable, because, you know, why would you pull the plug on him so quickly? At least let Geordi come and try to talk with him, or say goodbye to him. Or what was the hurry to unplug him so quickly? Like, even if you decide to do it, why not inform his other friends first to come and say goodbye or something? So, you know, if Geordi is angry about that, then it will actually make perfect sense. But if it's like in Season 1, then he will be angry at him for some illogical reason. Like, he will blame him for the fact that Utopia Planitia was destroyed on Mars. He will say the only reason they had the android slave labor on Mars was because you insisted to go and save the Romulans, and so Starfleet had to build more ships quickly, and that's why all of that happened, so you're at fault. And so that will be Season 1 level bad writing, in which people blame him for things which were not his fault, just to create this fake drama to fill the episodes with something. So I hope it will be something more logical, like if he's angry about him, because of what happened with Data, because that was kind of a controversial decision, that Data asked Picard to end his consciousness and Picard agrees, and so if they actually discuss that, then it can be interesting. It will both make sense why Geordi is angry, because Data was his best friend, and because it's an actual ethical dilemma. It's actually something to discuss. That scene itself was actually one of the better scenes of season 1, the way it was filmed, the way the actors were, and all of that was perfect, but the basic idea of it didn't make much sense, because why would he want to die if he can be restored? And in the same episode they had a brand new android body which they uploaded Picard into, and so if they can build new bodies, and obviously there's the whole colony of androids, so they can build a new androids, so why not just put Data into a new body and just make him stay on that planet with the android, say that he wants to become their leader, their teacher or something, and then it can be a happy ending. Instead they chose with a sad emotional ending of saying goodbye to Data another time just after bringing him back. And I do think the scene itself was one of the better scenes in season 1, but that basic idea of why you want to die was not really properly explained. I think they kind of tried to imitate that movie, The Thebicential Man, in which Robin Williams played an android who wanted to be like a human so badly. He was even willing to make himself mortal to do it, and so in the end he made himself age and die. I think they tried to imitate that, and that wouldn't be a bad ending for that character. I just think it's too soon. Why should Data die before all the other TNG characters do when he can live for hundreds of years? So it didn't really make much sense, and so it annoys me as well. And so if that's the reason Geordi is angry at Picard, that will make perfect sense, and also it will be an opportunity to discuss that topic further, which is an interesting controversial topic. The whole idea of, assisted suicide, just like in the TNG episode Ethics, when Worf wanted to kill himself and Riker debated about it with Picard. I think in that episode Picard did kind of incline to take Worf's side, and so it actually fits what we saw in that scene of season 1 of Picard, when Picard agreed with Data's wishes and all of that. So my point is that it can be an interesting ethical discussion, which is one of the things I liked most in Star Trek TNG, the fact that they often raised all kinds of interesting topics of discussions which are not black and white, which are much more complex and much more controversial, and that's what makes it interesting, because we can debate about it. And it's not just so clear-cut black and white that everyone will agree. That makes it boring. That's also the reason why I don't like one-dimensional villains, because that makes it boring. If just everyone immediately agrees what is good and evil, and so there's no real discussion anymore. It's just violence, just you have to fight and win and kill the bad guy. But if it's a more complex topic in which you can kind of get both sides of it, then it's much more interesting, it's much more complex, and the solution is also more complex, because it's not just winning over the evil bad guy, but it's more about reaching an understanding, reaching a diplomatic compromise. All of that kind of stuff is, in my opinion, what made TNG such a good show, because it was much more intellectual. It was about ideas, not just action scenes and violence. So if they raise that topic of what Picard did to Data, and actually debate the issue, and that's what will make the scene interesting, because this time it makes sense, and this time they will raise an actual controversial topic of discussion with opposite sides of view and all of that, and that's much more interesting than just one-sided good and evil kinds of stories in which everyone are on the same side, and that's boring. So hopefully this will be a return to what Star Trek used to be good about debating actual topics and issues. Even though in some episodes it was black and white, and some episodes the writers kind of tended to one side over the other, but there was often complexity and not total black and white story, but a more complex one with some actual points that both sides make that make sense. Kind of intellectual discussion about the ethical or moral ramifications and all of that, just like TNG used to do. If they bring back that kind of dialogue and discuss actual interesting issues in a clever way, then I'll be very happy. So I am hoping the new season will be good. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I will be reviewing it either way. I'm hoping I will be reviewing it with a smile after having enjoyed it and not with a facepalm. But hopefully my reviews will be fun either way. So let me know what you think, and we can discuss all of this in the comments below. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.